Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Traci Scheepstra, and today I'm here with my daughter and the co-founder of Embodied Learnings, Rachel Belliveau, and this is Body Talk. Every week we bring Body Talk to you to talk about everything to do with the body, because Embodied Learnings is committed to bringing the body into the elementary classroom and into the curriculum. Well, this week on Embodied Learnings, on our newsletter, in our blogs, on social media, our resources, we're talking about lifting spirits and starting on a high. Because we know that you are going back into the classroom and not everybody's spirits are feeling particularly high. In fact, many of you are sort of finding your way through the mess and trying to move from that feeling of perhaps anxiousness or frustration and just not knowing what's going to be happening in the next day, 2 days, even a week from now. And so we really wanted to talk about how it is that we can move away from that feeling of what's happening outside of ourselves and to discover what's we have control of inside of ourselves. And Rachel and I are really passionate about this topic about mindfulness. And so we wanted to just have a discussion and share some of our thoughts with you that, may just make you think, maybe something you're doing already, or perhaps there'll be a tip for you that you want to take with you into the classroom as you get started this year. So, good morning, Rach.
Good morning.
So nice to have this conversation with you on Body Talk.
Yeah, no, I think this is great. Mindfulness is one of my favorite topics. It's something that I've been really delving into, I would say, over the past year or so. I just really think it can have such a profound effect on our lives and how we approach the world, how we see the world.
One thing that you and I talked about that really made me think was that mindfulness is not just something that really helps us in the moment, but it's actually something that really helps us over the long term. And maybe you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, totally. I think like mindfulness, like say a meditation practice, or if you have a breathing exercise you like to do every day or something like that is definitely the first stepping stone into what can be so much more than that, where you can take that awareness that grows from calming your mind or watching your thoughts or breathing and feeling your body and take that into every facet of your life. Awareness over your reactions, your feelings, and have greater control over how you're kind of putting yourself out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I always think of it like a muscle. So, we talk a lot about mindfulness for students, for example, and again, it's really helpful for all of us. And it's a part that we actually have to practice and build, because in those moments, instead of just reacting to what's happening or feeling the energy of others where they may be getting worked up or saying this is never going to work or whatever it is that's going on, that we actually can tap into that practice and say, I know how to be still. I can actually pull myself out of all the things that are going on and find my own center. It's kind of this idea that the chaos can be around us, but we can still find this great piece of calm. And the more we practice it, the more we can kind of step into it at any moment, right?
Yeah, I like to think of it like almost it gives me a greater amount of space. Like I have space to, if something's really, I'm getting worked up, I have that ability to take that time, that space before I I have a reaction, or like I'm not kind of just going out of that place of where I am. I can give myself a little bit of time. And I think that like definitely changes how you're interacting with others and speaking with others, because you're giving yourself time before you're just reacting.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Sometimes people feel that when we talk about kind of stepping into the present moment, it's like what you feel doesn't matter. It's sort of this feeling of, I'm in a place where legitimately there's something going on that actually does make me feel angry, or that I say, this does not make sense, or this is not just. And so it's like, well, why can't I be with those feelings? So
Right.
I think that's a really good place to talk about too, because again, I talked to many teachers recently. I know that you have as well, where there is that feeling of like, this is crazy, or I feel like completely at a loss. So we're not saying that you can't not experience those emotions.
Well, I think everyone needs to feel what they need to feel. Like if you have anger, then, you have anger. You have to feel anger.
Mhm.
I think for me, the difference is like feeling anger and then, or are you putting anger on other people? So feeling your emotions and allowing them to be there and working through them and being accountable to them, but not necessarily spreading them on other people or other things happening outside of yourself.
Right.
So you have that choice to feel your feelings and work with them, and then choose how you're going to respond, choose how you're going to show up, choose how you're going to be. It's not about not having the feelings, not caring about what's going on.
Mhm.
It's about that conscious choice about how am I going to show up today. How am I going to live my life?
Right.
And I think that's like the discernment there.
Yes, absolutely. So, I can go to school and feel that, there's a level of frustration, but I can also say, okay, how do I take that feeling and how do I want to respond from there in a way that actually is serving,
Mm.
opposed to adding resistance, for example, where I can think of creative solutions and look at what's possible rather than this is just not going to work, and build that, and then, come in my speech and my actions towards people in that frustrated way, right? So the mindfulness is, okay, I acknowledge this is really difficult. Now, how do I want to go from here? So what steps do I take? Who do I speak to? But I can be mindful in where I go next.
Yeah, honestly, I think you're giving yourself so many more options. You're not just reacting out of that place of frustration or that place of anger, whatever your emotion is. You're
Right.
giving yourself like, these are my options. This is what I can do. And you're coming from it from a much more rational, like logical place,
Mm,
rather than an emotional place. And I think we make our best decisions when we are not bringing all the emotion into it. So feel your emotions, but don't bring your emotions into your choices.
yes, absolutely. It's like the saying of count to 10 before you speak or before you
Mm-hmm.
act, because sometimes you just need that moment to be, how is what I'm going to say or do going to help or hinder the situation? Is it going to move me forward, or either keep me where I am or move me back, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and especially with students, did you want to add on?
No, I was actually going to say with children, you can often see like that impulsiveness where they don't have necessarily that ability to slow down and make a choice. They're just really acting out of that like moment of impulsiveness and that emotion that they have. And
Mm,
we kind of tell this to children all the time to
yeah.
take time and not, react in these impulsive ways. But sometimes we forget to do that for ourselves.
Yes. And that is such a good way to lead into talking about how, as teachers, we really need to model for our students that way of being as well. So we can't ask of them what we are not doing ourselves. We have to show our students the way. So, really, teachers have to take that time to practice what does mindfulness look and sound like and feel like for me? What does it mean to respond versus react? And if I can do that and be that model for my students, then there's a much greater chance that they are going to be responsive when it is that I, am asking that of them.
Yeah, I think the best way to learn is through modeling. I mean, you can easily see the example, and I think children are great copycats. I can see that with my own son. He, like, I do something, he wants to just copy me and repeat it. And so if we're living our lives in such a way that is positive and coming from these great places, our children are just going to want to, like, our students are just going to want to do that. So
Yeah, it's true. It makes me think of when you were young. And I always, with you and your brother, that you were very much a mirror of your parents. And if I really noticed sort of a change in, how it is that you were perhaps behaving, sometimes I actually had to look at myself and say, is there something that you're just mirroring back to me?
Yeah.
So if you were hearing, if it was a really busy week and I was feeling frustrated, actually what I was getting in return was that mirror from you, that you were showing me exactly what it is that I was putting out. And I do remember that. And that was a big part of my own sort of awareness of, okay, how am I actually impacting the people around me? They're showing me, now I need to pay attention. There,
Right.
so our students can be our very best guide. And I've been in a lot of classrooms as a, where I go into classrooms to supervise teacher candidates when they're on practicum, and I can see the dynamic of the classes. And I mean, I've been in hundreds of classrooms, and it is always fascinating to me to see the differences. And usually when I speak to the teacher candidate, if it's a class where the children are really struggling to sort of manage their behavior and there's not a lot of listening, it's because they are really reflecting their teacher. And the teacher
Right.
candidates will say, this has been a challenging experience for me because of these reasons. So there's always sort of that direct reflection. Um, and I think it's good to just talk about this too, because right now, for those of us, those who are in the different school boards, and again, we have family and friends who are, in working in boards in across Ontario. And I know people watching maybe from other parts of the world, but those we've spoken to have said that mental health and wellness is like front of mind.
Mm.
They have been told, you need to focus on well-being, bring in mindfulness, do whatever you can to really help students start to get grounded and be present. And we have to start with ourselves. So
Yeah.
teachers have got to do that to be able, you just can't do the work for the students if you haven't done it for yourselves, right? We know that.
Yeah, you have to like start with you. It's like that classic saying of you have to put your oxygen mask on first before
Mhm.
you put it on, on somebody else, because you gotta take care of you.
Yes.
There's only one of you. You gotta take care of this person. So totally.
And it can be done very, very quickly. So I know that last week, it's already up on our website. I wrote a blog about finding peace in the classroom in the midst of chaos. And I talk about, again, this idea of you can be a mountain, so you can have chaos around you, but you can actually be the mountain where you are still and grounded regardless. And I did mention that idea of putting the oxygen mask on ourselves first. And of course, this week, our newsletter, we put out a great resource called Pause and Shift. So for those of you that may not be getting our newsletter, we always have free resources. So it's, we recommend you go to our website and sign up. But the one this week on Pause and Shift is part of our new Teacher Wellness Toolbox series. So we're going to be creating more tools for you that really are about mindfulness and just strategies where you can use them in the moment. And they're great. You can use them with your students as well.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I love the pause and shift. I think that one is so great. Just being able to take anything that's coming at you, take a moment, take a breath, and go, okay, I'm shifting, I'm
Mm,
moving on. This is the direction I'm going. And
yeah,
yeah, it's great.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that we're probably, out of time, unless there's anything else that you want to add.
No, I think that was a great little chat. And I'm just so happy that we can bring this to people. Yeah, again, mindfulness is just one of my favorite things to talk about. And I just want everyone to try it. So.
Me too. Well, thank you so much for watching. And again, you can check out our website at www.embodiedlearnings.com. If you haven't signed up for our newsletter, please do. We're also all over social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest. And if you have any comments or thoughts, please let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Anyway, thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.